I think a lot of the baggage around MLM is based on this sort of elitist idea of how success should happen. You go to high school, you go to college, you go through corporate America. That path is not available for everybody. I'd like to say, let's call it the original gig economy.
And welcome to Herbalife.
You've had such an extraordinary creative career, really being the creative leader of the third largest multi-level marketing company in the world.
Herbalife! Herbalife!
The passion is contagious. I'm not sure that we always create the momentum. I think we're literally serving momentum.
The Herbalife company says business has never been better.
The value of our bonus tonight is $52 million.
Everybody wants everyone to do well.
We roll deep, baby.
This is the secret sauce that we're here to deliver.
Save your breath, baby. I'm not going home with y'all.
Welcome to The Culture Boom, a podcast that explores how marketing leaders play a role in shaping our culture today. I'm Michelle.
I'm Chris. This is Teddy. And we are the CEOs of Sonic Guards, a media studio that connects brands and audiences through entertainment.
That's right. Today, I'm super excited.
Me
because
too.
You are. We all are. Teddy's sleeping, but he's excited.
He's excited.
We're so excited because we have an amazing guest on our show. Her name is Chelsea Gilmore. She is the creative leader, marketing extraordinaire behind one of the world's largest multi-level marketing companies.
Third largest in the world.
That's right. I'm talking about Herbalife. We're exploring so many incredible topics. You're going to love this one, talking about things like how they've built a tribe of thousands of ambassadors that are responsible for billions in revenue, what content is most successful for them, and how storytelling plays a role in their communication to drive that huge success that they have. So it's going to be a great one. Let's get into it.
Justy's a badass. Let's go.
So, Chelsea, we're so excited to have you here today. We're so excited about this conversation. I love that there's like light clapping over here.
Yeah.
Thank you. I think you've had such an extraordinary creative career, really being the creative leader of the third largest multi-level marketing company in the world, Herbalife. And what we're really fascinated about, there's a lot of things. We're excited to unpack a lot.
Yeah.
There's so much to dig into. But before we kind of go into some of the experience that you've had there and just the impact that you and the team have had on the world creatively, I'd love to just hear about your journey first. Tell us about you and what led you to where you are today.
Very excited to hear about that.
I'm going to start with my childhood.
Okay.
You guys are probably like, why?
No.
But it is important because
Yes.
I moved 11 times before I was 14.
Wow.
And so I was always an outsider. And this is going to circle back to my career. I came, long story short, came to LA to become a screenwriter after getting a master's degree in media theory where I thought I'd get a PhD. Figured out it's way more fun to write screenplays than dissertations, and did that professionally for years while I had a day job at Herbalife.
Oh,
So
interesting.
this goes back to being the outsider. I was embedded in Herbalife as an assistant for the C-suite executives. They knew I was a screenwriter. I was definitely an outsider, right? But what happened for me sort of professionally and creatively is I started to get really curious about Herbalife and the stories that they were telling. And we all know Hollywood has been through many different shifts. It lost its luster for me at a time when my boss was becoming CEO. And he said, "Are you sure you don't want a real job?" And I was like, "Well, I guess I do." And he's like, "Look, I really want you to be my voice of the CEO." Title he gave me.
Wow.
A title only a screenwriter could love. And I want to really sort of rethink how we tell the Herbalife story.
What did he define voice of a CEO as for you, or what do you define that as?
So this was obviously a while ago, and now I have a legitimate title. But he since he wanted to kind of redefine sort of how we talked about the company, but he couldn't be in every meeting. He couldn't be in the meetings with agencies. He couldn't be in the meetings with marketing teams, sales teams, etc. I sort of took the download of what he wanted to say about the company, and I just really represented it. And to everyone's credit, they they understood that I was there really sort of serving the CEO's vision.
Yeah.
Right.
And going back to the idea of being an outsider and sort of spending my life on the fringes and kind of having to navigate different worlds really served me actually professionally, because it was uncomfortable, but it was a space that I was comfortable in. And in fact, almost it became a touch of my superpower to be like, I'm okay. Like, I'm uncomfortable. I'm like, navigating a new world, but this is my comfort zone.
Yeah.
Do you feel, because it's so interesting, you said you moved 11 times, right? So do you feel like that gave you sort of a superpower of observing and
Yes.
looking at your environment and your surroundings? And
Experiencing
what was that,
different
what was
people.
that experience for you, and what did you gain from it?
Yeah. So my dad worked for Levi's actually as a marketing executive for international. So
That's so
I went to
interesting.
4 elementary schools in 3 countries.
Oh, so you were
Yeah, it
all
was
over the world.
international.
Wow.
Yeah. Unfortunately, none of them were countries where English was not spoken, so I still don't speak a second language.
What countries were they?
Canada and Australia.
Oh, you've spent
Longest
time in
I
Australia.
lived anywhere was Australia, which
Yeah.
is like a great place. But inherent in moving is constantly trying to assess a landscape.
Yeah.
And trying to find your people. And sometimes your people might not be there, so you have to become a chameleon and find an approximation of your people and become like a little bit able to kind of like get along with everyone
Yeah.
and stay curious,
Yeah.
which is another thing that I think has served me in my career is just sort of staying curious.
Yeah.
And actually, I work for a company that's very international. And I love to be on calls with people from around the world. Like that part of the business really is so fun for me. And just the difference in ways that people, different cultures sort of conduct business or even a meeting is always very intriguing.
That is amazing. Real quick, I had to ask. I just have to ask. So you got into this role now as almost like the voice of the CEO.
Yes.
Starting as an assistant.
Yes.
And then there have been other steps now to where you're this creative lead for the company.
Yeah.
What's been that bridge?
I know. So
But also how powerful that you have absorbed so much, to be able to have that experience.
Yeah.
Okay, so
I've been really lucky because Herbalife is the type of company that is founded by entrepreneurs who are usually self-made. So I feel like just sort of ethos-wise or sort of environment-wise, people respond to passion and they respond to people that are genuinely engaged and authenticity. So perhaps sort of your career path is not as focused on. If you are genuinely engaged, it really works for you. So through the years, I've been sort of tasked with different things. I spent a lot of time when my boss was CFO working with investors and having to tell the Herbalife story through the lens of Wall Street, and that was really interesting. Then I helped the executive vice president of government affairs, who actually worked in the Biden when he was vice president as like his chief of staff. I helped him sort of set up his office. And that's when I really got to sort of get to know distributors, because that executive came in and he's said, we're so misunderstood in Washington and the halls of power and thought leadership. We literally have to tell our distributor stories. Well, as a storyteller, I just started interviewing people. And I have to admit, until then, I had a lot of the same baggage that a lot of people have about MLM and network marketing.
yeah.
When I started to interview entrepreneurs, people who are truly self-made, I was blown away by, first of all, their sense of purpose, by their really just genuine goal and wish to change people's lives and help people live healthier lives. I was really I quickly became a huge fan of network marketing and MLM. And I'll tell you why. I think a lot of the baggage around MLM is based on this sort of elitist idea of how success should happen. You go to high school, you go to college, you go through corporate America. That path is not available for everybody. But a lot of people have an internal wish to create a better life for themselves. And MLM market, network, whatever you want to call it. I'd like to say, let's call it the original gig economy. If you have an entrepreneurial spirit,
Cool way to think about it.
yeah, this is a path for you. And I started to realize a lot of this sort of perception is coming from Wall Street, for instance, or leadership that is really attached to the traditional or normalized way to create success. And I still feel like we haven't told that. The industry itself hasn't completely told that story. I will also say, and you guys probably want to ask me a question.
No, it's okay.
No.
This is great.
No,
I will also say something like weight loss, or getting healthier, you do kind of need someone else to be in your corner. And so unlike some candles and oil, maybe you don't really need whatever. No, it's all good. Entrepreneurship's amazing. But to actually have someone who's like, I am here to help you. Call me. Are you struggling? Yes, of course I'm selling you this thing, but guess what? When you open it up, I'm popping out and I'm like, I'm your cheerleader.
Yeah.
So I just became a huge fan.
I mean, it's so fascinating to kind of also take everything you just said and know that you've been a part of the Herbalife journey for over a decade.
A long time.
Yeah. Well, but what I'm curious about with that is, pop culture changes.
Yeah.
I mean, nowadays, by the week, it feels like.
Yes.
I'm just so curious as a creative leader,
Yeah.
with especially a global mission.
Yeah.
How have you navigated that creatively? How do you continually, help tell this story, connect with people, and really keep Herbalife in the forefront of people's minds, especially nowadays with so much competition and things like that. Yeah, what does that look like?
Yeah, I mean, we talk about that a lot. And I think, the sort of content-wise, long form has been sort of everyone's comfort zone just in the world, right? Yeah. But now it really is about truly just getting the people, the entrepreneurs, to tell their story in 30 seconds or 2 minutes or what have you, because that authenticity has actually become the total vernacular of how people should try to connect with audiences. It's interesting to try to, you still have to, in a way, once you realize that is how you're going to connect with an audience, you still have to sell that to potentially the person you're going to feature. Yeah. Because it's hard to think about your story in 30 seconds, or that you're just, hey guys, but that is the world we live in. And we are pivoting more towards short form testimonials because it's so interesting. Everyone's
very organic and real.
Specific story, their story becomes universal. You don't have to think in these platitudes, I'm an entrepreneur and no, what is your story? I'm going to connect with you.
It's so interesting that you use the word entrepreneur. It's the first time I'm hearing it as it relates to someone who is a part of a I hear affiliates, I hear things like this. So is that what you call your community or people who are representing entrepreneurs?
No, they're actually called distributors. And that's what they've been called forever. And so as we also try to unpack what does that mean, it's sort of like an old school, but other ways to think about it, distributor of healthy living, distributor of motivation, so still try to apply it to more of those emotional terms.
Makes sense.
So that it's not just distributor, or even supply chain,
for sure.
Yeah.
So the first time that I ever actually heard about Herbalife was through a friend. His on Instagram, he's Sir Style. I don't know if you've heard of him, but he's
oh yeah,
yes,
I totally.
Okay,
yes,
so amazing.
He's so inspiring.
He is so inspiring. Yeah. We went to one of his workouts, and that's when we first met him, and then kind of created a friendship with my sister and I. And it was the first time actually that I had a positive experience with a multi-level marketing type of conversation.
Yes.
And part of that was because he gave so much value to people. He was so inspiring and so positive. And then he was introducing something. So he had built this trust,
Yes.
So we wanted to hear more. We wanted to hear more about what he was, with Herbalife and what he was talking about. It didn't feel forced. It didn't feel like, a bait and switch type of thing at all. And so I'm curious, one, that's my experience with Herbalife.
Yeah.
So to me, because I've had other experiences
Yes.
with like MLMs, and
Yeah.
I'm like, not my favorite. But that's again the representation that's happened there. How do you guys protect, the perception or the experience when you have so many thousands of people speaking on your behalf and creating that these micro experiences?
Yeah, how do you keep that consistent
Yeah.
too?
Well, that's always like from a branding perspective, I think that's the inherent challenge.
Yes.
We're actually going through a huge brand refresh. You have to have the buy-in from your, in a weird way, your customer is your entrepreneur.
Right.
So having them buy into how you're expressed and paint the picture about how important consistent branding is. I think that younger people get that. They understand that they are responding to a story a brand is telling as consistently as possible.
Yeah.
But there's a inherent flexibility that you have to have, because a lot of our entrepreneurs have their own businesses and they represent them in their own way. And we have to embrace that too, because some of our distributors are like lifestyle influencers, and they're influencing, they're painting a picture through their personal brand.
Right.
Yes.
They're obviously super passionate about Herbalife. Like if people sort of ask the right questions, they're going to say like, look, this is how I'm making this lifestyle happen. It's with all this support from the company.
Yeah.
But, so a lot, we give people the flexibility to be as sort of front and center with a lot of tools that we provide, toolkits, etc. And they can decide if they want to use that in the first conversation or if that's something that comes, a little bit later, like your experience.
Right.
So I think there is some flexibility that is inherent when you're dealing with literally millions of distributors around the world.
Yeah. I was just going to say,
Okay.
I'm really interested to know, what is your, and actually I also want to touch on your screenwriting. I was going to say, what is your, day to day, week to week, month to month, what is your creative focus with what you're doing? And then I guess part two of that question is, how does your, filmmaking, screenwriting, all that side of things play into what you do today and how you think of where the world's going creatively?
Yeah. So the first part of that is we recently reorganized Worldwide Creative Services into an in-house creative agency. First one at Herbalife.
Wow.
And the way that we do it, there's 3 creative leads, and then we have an executive creative producer who has come from the agency world, and he's amazing, and it was his vision to do this. And then we have quote-unquote internal clients. So I do a ton of sports marketing content. Right now we're, Ronaldo's our biggest.
Amazing.
Yeah, he's our biggest sponsored athlete. We create content for his channels. I also work a ton with expert content. So taking these incredible brainiacs and putting their content into 30-second pieces and whatever, just like trying to tell the product story from the lens of expertise. I'm actually now a new client, and it's funny to say client when you're internal, but is a woman that is running our artificial intelligence. So she's gonna, we're trying to unpack what that means in a company, first of all, who we should maybe harness this tool, and our distributors using the tool, and how can they use it responsibly? And if they're seeking health information, how can they unpack if it's the right information? So every day is a little bit different, which, I have been there a long time, but every day is different. So it keeps me sort of intrigued.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And I also think as a storyteller, you're when you go into rooms and you try to sell a screenplay, you have to paint a picture. And I do think that is a very transferable skill to creative directing. And so just kind of getting everyone on board and passionate about what we're doing has been a real joy of my day to day. And then even just from a sort of a tactics way that we approach projects is we do storytelling exercises for tier 1 projects. And we literally, it's a storytelling methodology that was developed by Peter Guber, who is a film executive. where we literally ask ourselves, who is the protagonist of this campaign or this brand or this question? Who is the audience? What's the moment in time? And what's our mission? And what's our meta story? And we've been able to develop employer brands through that exercise. We've been able to develop, we're about to launch a global sports marketing brand through that exercise. Wow. And I'll tell you something about that exercise is you get 20 people in a room who are like, I don't really do this. And like, I'm a scientist. It's so team building and everyone's a storyteller.
Yeah.
And it's
completely
so
agree.
cool.
Yes.
At the end of it, when you come out and you're like, okay, I took all this information, created this manifesto, this big idea, here's the tagline. Everyone feels like I own a part of that. Like I was part of that. And it's been so powerful for us, especially as an internal agency, to say like, this is the secret sauce that we're here to deliver.
So, okay, with these stories, how are you guys currently getting those stories out? What does that look like for you?
Well, it's so interesting. I mean, I think any global company, there's always this pendulum shift. Sometimes a global company, corporate says, this is a campaign, we're creating all the assets, you disseminate it.
Right.
Then the pendulum shifts and corporate says, we created this awesome campaign and these toolkits. Regions, if you feel like you want to do it, go for it. And by the way, you have to create the stuff based on our guidelines. And we're here to consult. So, I think it's always an interesting thing. It's an interesting thing to sometimes say, oh, corporate understands the entire world and understands India and China, and like, don't worry, like you got this. Or saying like, China, no, you might want to tweak it for your market. So we're always trying to find that. Right now we're in the develop the toolkit and, develop the creative strategy and be here to guide creative teams, including external creative teams. Like I was on a call last night with an agency who's working with our team in India. And the agency was pitching kind of the way they would bring this campaign to life. And we were there to consult.
Right.
So it's really interesting. Yeah.
That's really great.
I'm just, the internal agency, like, was that something that was like your idea that you wanted to create, that you felt like was the best way to kind of go forward? And like, where do you feel like that's going? Like, where is it evolving to?
Yeah. So the concept was brought in by our CMO, and then he sort of empowered a group of us to do that. And it's really about organizing. Well, like a lot of companies before that vision, a lot of projects were almost led by project managers. And they're great. Yeah. Like, honestly, as a screenwriter, I'm like, I needed a project manager. Like, I really needed someone to be like, you said you were going to get those BS.
Yeah, right.
Like, are you sure this is not what they said in that meeting? They're amazing. But if they are, before the agency reorg happened, they were almost giving there was a real blurry line, like kind of like, almost giving the creative notes. We had to flip the equation where the creative strategy was king and queen. And that the PMs and everyone was sort of serving the vision. Yes. So that's still the vision today. We do have an internal studio who then we like kind of hire to create smaller projects. But we don't have hundreds of people. So we do have to bring in vendors, but where the cost savings has come is that we are saying to our vendors or our, production partners or whatever, this is the strategy, like you're creating it now. And that has really worked well for us. And that's how we're organized.
I want to go back a little bit to the people, the people who are your ambassadors, your distributors. That to me is so incredibly fascinating because so many brands want to build a community. For so many companies, their community is actually pretty passive and not necessarily taking an action on behalf of the company. Maybe they're watching some of their things on social media. But you all have a community of distributors who are very active.
Yes.
One, how do you for like, what's the philosophy for that community and building that community? And then how do you keep them engaged long term? Like I said, our friend, since I've known him, which has been years now, he's been an advocate of Herbalife and still is. So how do you create one, the actual community, and then two, the longevity and the engagement?
Yeah. So I would almost say we're serving a community that is organic, like that it really is authentically grows.
That's so powerful. Just that. I mean, that's and also innovates.
And sometimes their innovations are things that we look at internally and go, oh, we should scale that. How can we scale that? And it's such a generous community that everybody wants everyone to do well. That's what's interesting about network marketing. The better the person under you does, the more they grow, you grow.
That is, it was a team mindset. Yeah, interesting.
So unlike, whatever traditional structures where you're like, no, I can't. If I share that, they might get better than me. No, these people want. I don't want to speak for them, but I'll just speak for myself. As someone who's been there for a long time and really still feels sort of passionate, is the passion is contagious. I think also it's exciting. There are these different kind of markers throughout the year, big events that the distributors go to. They get invited, they train, they meet with people, they meet with their teams. I could see where that is so contagious because it's contagious as someone who works there. You kind of, these different milestones, right? Like as humans, we're kind of built to want, like the different milestones. So that's inherent. So you're already kind of in different parts of your cycle and you're excited about what's ahead. That keeps you engaged. I also imagine, because I think it's the same for me, seeing people who started in one way and then became this other thing.
Transformation
is so powerful.
That is so powerful.
And I'm sure it becomes, and addictive's the wrong word, but I'm sure it just continues to fuel you. Because you're truly helping people change their lives.
It does feel connected to something where there's real fulfillment there.
It's very
fulfilling. You're helping people.
Yes.
Okay, well, that's pretty amazing. I am so fascinated by everything that has to do with growing that community as well. So what initiatives or campaigns, like you said, you do events and different things that really kind of give people that sense of community, and it's really powerful. What are the initiatives or campaigns or anything that creates the most buy-in or new members? What do you guys do? And where do you see the most effectiveness to build that community?
Right. Well, we're there to serve the distributors. So a lot of them are doing their own workouts that thousands of people go to. Like you experience probably a weekly workout.
Yes.
There are people that create whole events.
Yes.
And we are there to, sometimes we're involved and sometimes we're not. What I feel like we have to do is be sure to be stewards of the brand and just continue to create as seamless as experience from a brand perspective, from a product experience as possible. Right? That we create product even that they can truly say every single thing in the scoop is going to be what's on the ingredients, that, and that we give them the tools to tell the story. The momentum, we just serve momentum. I'm not sure that from my perspective, I'm not sure that we always create the momentum. I think we're literally serving momentum.
I get that.
Makes sense.
And then what about the momentum of getting more distributors in? What works for you with attracting distributors?
Again, the distributors attract the distributors.
Interesting. Got it. So you're providing this amazing product, this amazing kind of these tools for them to just take it where they want to take it, and they're creating that momentum.
Like, for instance, we just did a whole sales and marketing toolkit. And I wouldn't even call it a campaign. I would call it a toolkit.
Right.
PowerPoints, one sheets, long form videos,
all the
short
tools
form
they
videos.
use
Like maybe, and it's a PowerPoint literally that you can edit and, download and edit. It's not a PDF. It's not fixed. This is your story. You're telling it. We wrote the script. You can rewrite the script. Insert your story here. You want to shoot your own user-generated testimonial? We recommend this kind of format. But you also know what you're doing. The people that really are so good in this business just authentically know how to tell their story.
Yeah.
And so we're just trying to give them the tools to do
Yeah,
that.
to support that.
Yeah.
Do you have, again, I love the idea that, you know, you came from entertainment.
Yeah.
And again, for us, when we look to the future, we really see entertainment and how people, especially with the evolution of the streamers and how people are engaging with entertainment more. Do you see, either from your distributors or even just the way you're thinking, do you see a kind of an evolution in entertainment for what you're doing, either again with your distributors or just even for yourself,
Right.
in the world of marketing or your brand? What does that
When you
look
say entertainment, like what do you?
I guess I'm thinking, so, you know, as a screenwriter, as a writer, somebody who, again, has created films, right?
Yeah.
And done that side of things. I mean, is there any part of that plays into your world now or into the future, again, with your distributors or yourself?
Yeah.
Or integrating even the brand also.
Or integrating the brand, because again, we just see entertainment like really evolving as far as it relates to brand.
Yeah.
So I'm just curious, do you see that for yourself as far as that really playing more of a role, or do you feel like
I mean, look, if there was an appetite to either create scripted narrative, I think that'd be intriguing. But I even think just short form documentary is so cool. It's such a great way to tell the story. Yeah. And, you know, we've done some of that and it's been very impactful, but have we gotten it out enough? Probably not. I would even say if there was there was a film when the company was being shorted by a huge hedge fund guy, and it's a whole story, and we won and he lost $1 billion. But there was a film that we don't know who funded it that came out very anti. There is a counter documentary that we could tell.
Right.
So there's a lot of like making sure you own the narrative.
100%. What I've loved about what we've heard so far for me is, you talk a lot about you're creating this amazing product. You're providing these amazing tools, but there's a freedom.
Yeah.
There's not a control of the community. And that's why it's so organic.
Yes.
Everyone wants you want your community to grow and be your advocates and your ambassadors, but what I'm taking away is just the power in actually letting them do that in their own way.
That's right.
Yeah, that's really, really powerful.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
So one last thing, then we'll end here. What, and again, looking to the future, like what keeps you inspired creatively? Like what do you do, personally as a creative leader to keep you inspired to tell, these stories, to serve your, community creatively?
Yeah. Especially rolling out a new brand with a new tagline, a new kind of revised mission. How can we sort of bring that to life in a way that connects, that feels fresh? It's a new look and feel. Sort of bringing the brand, it still has that work to do to make sure it's like a concise experience for that distributor and end user.
Yeah.
That inspires me every day. But also just mentoring young creatives, I just still feel very inspired by the company and the people that we serve, especially when you talk to them. So it's really a pleasure to tell their story. And that really does keep fueling me. And perhaps it's because I started out as a screenwriter, and that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to tell human stories.
Yeah.
And it's at a place where you're even in meetings with executives, and this idea of, well, we're a company of stories. To be in a place where that's valued is incredibly inspiring.
I just inspiring. It's so amazing that you have thousands, hundreds of thousands of individual stories that are being told like out there, and you kind of get to be that, enabler, supporter, creative leader among that
It's really
community. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
And you just have the most beautiful energy, by the way. This has been so awesome.
Yeah, this has been
Seriously,
guys.
this is so great.
I could talk
Yeah.
for 10 more hours.
I know, right?
Honestly, it's such an amazing thing what you've done, but also just like sitting with you and getting to know you. It's so
Thank
cool.
you.
Yeah.
It's so nice to meet you.
We'll have to do a part 2.
Thank you so much, you guys. Thanks, Teddy.
Yes, I'd love that.